Welcome to the Dr. Shannon Live Show for the week, where I show up answering your questions. And here's the question that I have for today. How can I help my husband be more vulnerable? And this can go both ways. This happens to be one of you writing in about your husband, but we equally have the same request from husbands about their wives. And this is a great question because in my Intimacy for Life method, one of the things that we really help couples do is deepen their emotional engagement. So I have three things I want to share with you today that can maybe help you move this along as we are recognizing that couples really have sometimes not learned how to move into a deeper, emotionally engaging interaction and connection point, or have had a series of conflicts um, or parallel lives that really haven't enhanced or promoted this, and they've moved away from it from where they once were. So, deepening that emotional engagement is absolutely necessary for that intimacy for life trajectory. Moving your conversation, here's your first tip, from transactional, outward focus, life oriented, task oriented conversations to a more internally driven focus is necessary. So you move it from facts, um, information exchange to an internal thoughts and feelings focus is absolutely necessary. We get in the habit of just asking those close-ended questions. Did you, have you, will you, those kinds of things that only promote succinct answers, and it's about fact finding and information gathering, which is absolutely necessary in relationships as we are co coordinating life management habits and rhythms. But when we have that opportunity to really check in with head and heart, we have to really change the focus and the language that we are internally driven with thoughts and feeling promotion, more open ended conversations and questionings. And so we use language of, sharing rather than fact finding. And so we might want to ask curious questions. That, remember, is that we are really focused on trying to understand and be more like open with just discovery. And it feels more inviting and more safe and more secure. And usually, here's your second tip, usually there is one person in the relationship that is a little bit more comfortable with vulnerability. And so I would say if that person wants to start the way, it might mean that they take a little bit more vulnerable risks and sharing from their place of head and heart. And if you're really wanting to engage in more vulnerable, open, more safe conversation that breeds vulnerability, then I would say on topics of sharing, that it not be around those trigger points of conversations initially, that we tend to have hugely differing opinions or perspectives, or they might be trigger sets to conflicts in the past. So taking risks around sharing thoughts and feelings on just personal experiences, personal thoughts and feelings of interactions, dreams, fears, hopes, those kinds of things. And what we're learning from Brene Brown's really great cutting edge on her research on vulnerability is that over time, vulnerability will breed vulnerability in our partners, that they will begin taking risks as they feel safe. little bits and pieces at a time. And it breeds the way when one partner is beginning to take those steps as well. They'll try to meet us at that level. So if you're the one that's wanting it, that means that you might have to be the one starting it. And then lastly, let me just offer this to you. Go in with just a lot of tender patience. If we have grown up in family of origins, that vulnerability wasn't necessarily role modeled, there wasn't a value set, um, then sometimes that takes time for partners to find the ability to even identify sometimes their own thoughts and their own feelings, or to be able to find language around that. We sometimes don't share from those really softer emotions. We know when we're happy and we know when we're angry, but sometimes we don't really know or are able to talk through in a succinct kind of way when we're um, feeling insecure or sad or disappointed, all these other more subtle kinds of changes in our emotional shifts, and identifying the conversations that we have in our head about different scenarios that we can catch and then therefore describe. So that takes some patience to broaden that awareness, the patience to feel safe and comfortable, even sharing, and also that the patience that our partner exudes instead of the peppered questions, long, in depth conversations that someone might grow uncomfortable with, or formulate this opinion around that we can't engage in this conversation because it's going to mean some kind of long dragged out thing, that we grow patience with accepting a 5 to 10 minute conversation occasionally, or not the expectation that we have to do it right or to do it at our partner's comfort level. So growing that patience by being accepting of the conversation at the level that our partner is able to give it in those moments. So, those are my tips for the day: emotional engagement and how to deepen that in your relationship to make it more meaningful, more satisfying over the long haul. Thanks for writing in, a love leader, about how I can share this with the community with answering your question. And again, if you have any questions, my QR code is up there. You can reach out to me in all things Dr. Shannon from that QR code. We will see you next week. Go and learn how to love well in your most important relationship.